Hi, how are you doing? This is IBM-i By Doing. Welcome to IBM-i By Doing, a series of video sessions in which we do hands-on projects programming the IBM-i Midrange computer. I'm Madhu Vasudevan with over 20 years of IBM-i work experience at your service. The target audience is newbie programmers who want to learn RPG4 or RPG ILE on IBM-i. We will mount our RPG bikes right on top of the Subfile hill and slide down the valley of data file processing in RPG4 ILE. Just follow along. Working along with me, you will be able to do this. Early in this series, we will tackle the fabled RPG subfile, and we will create every possible variation of the subfile. We will create physical files, logical files, display files, printer files, and of course the RPG ILE programs to handle all these files. We will create some information display screens, some data entry screens, and generate some reports. Our subfile inquiry program will allow muggles to look up multiple train records in one screen. The search screen will accept a center name as input. After entering a center name, the muggle will press the enter key. Our program will pull up one page full of records of trains going to that center. If the muggle hits the enter key without inputting a center name, our program will pull up one page full of records of trains going to any and all the centers sorted alphabetically. If more is shown at the bottom and the muggle hits page down key, our program will pull up the next page of train records. From any page, user can press page up key, then our program will pull up the previous page of train records. This process can be continued until all requested data records have been viewed as subfile pages. After the last requested record has been loaded to the subfile, bottom will show at the bottom of the last page. If user presses page down key when bottom is shown, error message is shown and keyboard is locked. Finally, F3 may be pressed to quit the inquiry program and end the inquiry session. The city-wise trains information may be viewed by directly querying the physical file. We will run the query command on the physical file train set with the record select parameter set to view the records for specific centers. We will thus verify that our inquiry subfile is indeed working correctly. To keep me motivated to produce more and even better quality free content, please subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button below, leave a comment or two, and share this video with your colleagues, friends, and other IBM-i enthusiasts. Hit the bell icon below to actively follow along with the rest of our series. Having reviewed the logical file to access trains information city-wise, let's create a display file with a subfile for inquiring on the train's information. Note the bottom message that subfile control record format CTL train has been updated. In the work with display record screen against subfile record format SFL train, key in a 12 to design its image and hit enter. In the design image screen, to select database file, press the F10 key. Against database file train set, tab over to record column and press F4. The prompt, select record format trnrec by keying in a 1 and hit enter. To select all fields for output, under option, key in the number 3 and hit enter. Note the message in the bottom, all fields in record trnrec were selected for output, and hit enter again. You are back in the design image screen, but note the columns or field names placed in the bottom. Move cursor to first row, first column, which in our display will be the fifth row, third column. To create the column center, key in the number 2 prefixed with the and symbol because 2 is the number of the center field shown in the bottom, and hit enter. Move cursor under column train. To create the column for train, key in &1 and hit enter. To create column for engineer, look up the number of the engineer field in the bottom. Key in ampersand followed by the number of the engineer field in the bottom and hit enter. To create the PLTF column, place cursor under column PLTF. Key in ampersand followed by the number of the PLTF field from the bottom, which is number 2, and hit enter. Create column for W days, ampersand followed by the number of the field W days in the bottom, which is number 4, and hit enter. Let us shift column W days to the right by 2 greater than symbols so that W days is almost centered. To create column for time, key in and followed by the number of the start time column listed in the bottom, which is 1, and hit enter. To create the ticket column, key in ampersand and the number of the ticket field from the bottom, which is number 1, and hit enter. And finally, to create the commission date column, key in ampersand followed by the number of the commission date field in the bottom, which is number 1, and hit enter. Move cursor to the attribute byte of the start time field, key in a star and hit enter. In the select field keywords screen, against editing keywords, key in a Y and hit enter. For edit word, key in within quotes 0 suppression, space, colon, 2 spaces, end quote, and hit enter. Hit enter again to return to design image screen. Note the time column has the semicolon delimiter between hours and minutes. Move cursor to the attribute byte of the ticket field, key in a star and hit enter. In the select field keywords screen, against editing keywords, key in a Y and hit enter. For edit word, key in within quotes 0 suppression, space, space, dot, space, space, close quote, and hit enter. Hit enter again to return to design image screen. Note that the ticket column has the decimal point. Note that the column heading engineer has a missing hyphen in its underlines. To fix this, we need to edit the subfile control record format again. But right now we are editing the subfile record format, so F3 out of here. To save and exit, key in 1 and hit enter. In the work with display record screen, against subfile control record format CTL train, key in the number 12 and hit enter. Add the extra hyphen under the engineer column by enclosing all the hyphens within quotes and hit enter. F3 out of the design image screen. To save and exit, key in a 1 and hit enter. Note the message below which says image CTL train has been updated. Finally, we need to create the footer record format. In work with display record screen, to add a record format for the footer, under options, key in a 1, tab over to record field and key in footer and hit enter. In the add new record screen, confirm that the new record format name is footer and type is record and hit enter. You are put into the design image work screen. Press F14, that is Shift plus F2, to invoke the ruler. Using arrow keys, move cursor down to line number 21, column 2. Press F14 again to toggle away the ruler. Key in within quotes, press enter to continue, full stop, close quote. Using arrow keys, position cursor down by 2 lines on column 2. Key in within quotes F3 equals exit, double space, F12 equals cancel, close quote, and hit enter. Press F3 to exit the design image screen. To save and exit, key in a 1 and enter. Note bottom message that record format footer has been added. We have completed the schema creation of the display file train Q3. Press F3 to exit the screen design aid. In the Save DDS and Create Display File screen, to save DDS source, key in a Y. For Create Display File, key in N for No and hit Enter. Note the message at the bottom, which refers to the newly created source code member, train Q3 in the source physical file QDDS-SRC in your project library. Hit Enter again and press F3 to exit the design screens. Press F3s until you are back in the IBMi main menu command line. Let us view this source member train Q3. In the command line, key in the command work member PDM and hit Enter. You should be in the source physical file QDDS-SRC in your project library. The member holding the schema for the display file train Q3 should be listed. To edit this display file member train Q3 in SDA, against the member name, key in 17 and hit Enter. Inside SDA, in the Work with Display Records screen, note that the 4 record formats that we created in previous SDA session are listed. Let's look at the design image screens of each of these record formats. Key in a 12 against the inquiry record format CNTR-INQ and hit Enter. In the attribute byte of the input field, key in a star and hit Enter. Against display attributes, under the Y column, key in a Y and hit Enter. Against display attribute high intensity HI, under the Y column, key in a Y, and under the first indicator column, key in N90. Similarly, against the underlying display attribute UL, under the Y column, key in a Y, and under the first indicator column, key in N90. Hit Enter. Hit Enter again to return to the center inquiry design image. Press F12 to return to the display records screen. Note that the bottom message says record format center INQ has been updated. Against the subfile record format SFL tran, key in a 12 for design image and hit Enter. Press F12 to return to the display record screen. Key in a 12 against the subfile control record format CTL tran and hit Enter. Note that SDA always shows the subfile control and the subfile record formats together. Press F12 to return to display record screen. Against the footer record format, key in a 12 and hit Enter. Press F12 to return to the display record screen. Press F3 to exit SDA. For Save DDS source, key in a Y, but for Create Display File, key in an N for No and hit Enter. Note that source was saved in member message is shown. Press Enter again. Back in PDM, to edit source member train Q3 in SEU, against member train Q3, key in a 2 and hit Enter. Press Shift plus F1 to change session defaults. Against uppercase input only, press N and hit Enter. Tab over and from top of the line number column, key in an I and hit Enter. In the newly inserted line, under column A, key in a couple of stars and key in the comment, display file for loading single subfile page only, within brackets subfile size equals subfile page, and hit Enter and one more Enter. View the file level keywords. With the cursor on initial inquiry screen record format line, press page down to review it. With cursor on subfile record format line, press page down to review it. Move cursor to the column commission date line. From the line number column, key in an I and hit Enter. In the functions column, key in the keyword date format within bracket star USA to ensure that the commission date is printed in the USA date format, which is dd/SDA. mm/4-digit YYYY and hit enter a couple of times. Move cursor to Subfile control record format line and press page down to review it. Press page down one more time. Review the footer record format in the bottom. To exit SEU, press F3. To keep our edits against change create member, key in a Y and hit enter. Note the message in the bottom. PDM says that you have changed the source code member called trainQ3 in the source physical file QDDS-SRC in your project library. You have to compile this member to create the display file object called trainQ3, which will be opened by the RPG program to present the screen interface to the user. To compile this member trainQ3 into a display file of the same name, against the member, key in number 14 and hit enter. The create display file command compiles the source member and creates the display file object of the same name in your current library, which is your project library. You should see the file created success message in the bottom. Press F3 until you are back in the main menu. Check on your display file, key in the command dsplib, your project library, and hit enter. You should see the display file object trainQ3, F3 out of the display. Let's examine the newly created display file object. Key in the command display file description, your project library / trainQ3 and hit enter. Scroll up the pages and hit enter. After exiting the display, let's examine the fields in the newly created display file object. Key in the command display file field description, your project library / trainQ3 and hit enter. Scroll up beyond the record format name and note the field names, attributes, lengths and positions. Note the separate indicator area that keyword INDARA created. Press F3 to exit the display. Having created a display file with a subfile for inquiring on the train's information, let's create an inquiry single-page subfile program. We will key in the RPG4 program in the modern free format using a more modern editor than SEU. Minimize the IBMi client emulator window. We will use Visual Studio Code to write and compile our RPG4 subfile program. Again, Visual Studio Code is a freely downloadable application. The link to download Visual Studio Code is in this video's description. In your desktop or laptop, download and install Visual Studio Code. Then launch Visual Studio Code. In the bar on the left, click on the IBMi icon. In the left panel under IBMi servers, the PUB400 server should be listed. If you don't see it, review our data entry subfile program video. A link to our RPG4 playlist is available in this video's description. Click on the PUB400 server. In the bottom right, view the message connected to pub400.com and close the pop-up. In the left pane, under User Library List, ensure that your project library is on the very top. If the current library shown is not your project library, click on the Change Current Library icon, key in your project library name, and hit enter. In the left pane, under Object Browser, click on the arrow next to the filter to expand it. Under QRPGLE SRC, you can see your program source code members. To the right of QRPGLE SRC, click on the Create Member icon. In the pop-up window on top, key in your single-page inquiry subfile program name. So key in trainsfl3.rpgle, where RPGLE is the source member type, and hit Enter. In the bottom right, open the pop-up message. Note the creation of source member trainsfl3 in source physical file QRPGLE SRC in your project library. Close the message pop-up. Source member trainsfl3 is open in Visual Studio Code editor window. Having created a display file with a subfile for inquiring on the train's information, let's create an inquiry single-page subfile program. To keep me motivated to produce more and even better quality free content, please subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button below, leave a comment or two, and share this video with your colleagues, friends, and other IBMi enthusiasts. Hit the bell icon below to actively follow along with the rest of our series.